Because like John the Baptist, when we're in a dry season, when we're in the desert, when we're in the wilderness, when God hasn't done anything for us lately and things seem to be getting worse, we begin to draw the conclusion, well, my circumstances reflect the way that God feels about me. And God says, no, they don't. No, they don't. Your personal circumstances don't necessarily coincide with how God feels about you. Don't ever draw that conclusion. Proof of how God feels about you is what happened at the cross, not what's happening at home, not what's happening at school, not what's not happening at work, not what's not happening in the neighborhood, not what's happening in your love life or what's not happening in your love life or with your kids. So what do when God is inattentive? When God seems to be unavailable? When God seems to be late? I think if we were to ask Jesus what to do, I think he would give us the same advice that he gave John in prison. Here's my updated version of his advice. You look back and remember, and you look outside your circumstances and you reflect. You look back and remember, and you look outside your prison walls and reflect on the activity of God. You look back and you remember those times when God did come through for you. Because what's happening now doesn't discount the reality of past answered prayer. Of that difficult patch you had in your marriage and God came through. When you prayed for a child and God came through. When you had a difficult time as a teenager and God revealed himself for the first time to you and it just radically transformed your life. All those past occurrences, all that past interaction with God, it was real, it was true. And you look outside your current prison and you remember, and you take courage from the fact that God was real then, he's real now. He's just not expressing his reality the way that you want him to now. You know, the story doesn't end well for John. You know how this ends, right? Herod has a birthday, and Herodias sends her daughter from a different marriage in to dance for King Herod and his friends, and apparently it was some kind of dance because at the end, the guy, they'd been drinking, so they're all half drunk, and here's this teenage girl that's danced in front of them, and King Herod is just all over himself about Salome, and he says, look, that was so awesome. I'll promise, I'm going to give you anything you ask for, you can have it up to half my kingdom. Thinking she's going to ask for a new phone or maybe front row tickets to a Taylor Swift concert. I mean, she's a teenage girl. What's she going to ask for, right? And she says something that teenage girls never say. Hold on a second, I'm going to ask my mom. And she disappears and she finds Herodias and says, the king has said I can have anything up to half the kingdom. What should I ask for? And Herodias says, tell him you want John the Baptist's head on a silver platter tonight. And because of the drunken, party of a king who was pretty much out of control when he made the promise. Because of his pride in front of his friends that he didn't want to violate the promise. He calls for his soldiers and they go down into the prison that night and they behead the cousin of Jesus. And it's not too long after that some very insecure religious leaders pay to have Jesus betrayed and arrested and tried and mocked and lied about. Crucified. And God does nothing to stop it. But God didn't move 1 centimeter off the center of his throne. Because even though it would seem he was inactive, uninvolved, far away, not paying attention, late, God was right where God wanted to be. And the events unfolded just the way God wanted them to unfold. And no, it wasn't a script that John the Baptist would have written for himself. And at the end of Jesus' life, he actually asked the Father, is there any other way? Is there any other way through this other than being crucified, other than being put to death for the sins of mankind? And the Heavenly Father said, no, this is my plan. Friends, 2,000 years later, we're still talking about it. 2,000 years later, we're still celebrating it. 2,000 years later, people's lives continue to be transformed by what seemed to be the inattentiveness of the very God these two men followed and worshipped. Wow. When God is silent, he's not absent. When God seems inactive, it doesn't mean he's inactive. When God seems to be late, it doesn't mean God's late. It just means in the midst of those difficult circumstances, we've got to look back and reflect, and we've got to look outside of our prison walls and reflect on what God is doing all around us. And then here's the best part. Okay, you ready? If you haven't been paying attention, come on back in, all right? Quit doing email, whatever. You need your undivided attention. This is the best part, okay? Now, this is going to be a little weird, okay? And you may think I'm crazy. I think in that interaction between Jesus and John's friends that were going to take a message back to him in prison, I think Jesus sent you a secret message. I think he sent you a secret message. I think he sent a secret message to every single follower of Jesus that would live in the 1st century, the 2nd century, the 3rd century, all the way through the 20th century and the 21st century. And here's the secret message that I'm going to uncode for you. This is the thing that we hang everything on. You ready? Ready? Here's the secret message. Blessed is, say it with me. Guess who you are? You're anyone. In other words, in that 1st century context, he reaches way beyond the 1st century, way beyond John the Baptist, and he speaks directly to you and directly to me. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble away, fall away, lose faith, give up hope. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me. Blessed means blessed by God. God's paying attention. He knows your name. He knows your circumstances. And there is a promise at the end of your faithfulness if you will remain faithful in spite of what Jesus hasn't done for you lately. In spite of what God hasn't done for you lately. In spite of the fact that nothing is changing for you. It's as if God looked through the portals of time and he said, I see your frustration. I see your hopelessness. I see that you're just on the verge of walking away. I see that you're on the verge of giving up. Don't give up. Don't give up on me. Blessed are you. When you remain faithful, you refuse to walk away. You refuse to stumble away on account of me.
Thanks so much for watching Your Move with Andy.